The third quarter survey of OCTA Research reveals a decline in the trust and performance ratings of President Bongbong Marcos and VP Sara Duterte. Marcos's trust score is down from 71 to 69%, while Duterte slipped to 59 from 65%. The satisfaction with the president's performance is at 66% and the VP at 52% from 60%. Survey was conducted between September 4 and 7 with 1,200 respondents and a plus-minus 3% margin of error. Let's talk about OCTA's recent survey with its president, Professor Ranjit Rye. Sir, magandang hapon and thank you for joining us and welcome back to the Story Conference.
Good afternoon, Prof.
Yeah. Good afternoon to
Hi,
everyone.
Professor.
Good
Thank you, sir,
afternoon
for
po
joining
sa inyo lahat. And thank you for always inviting OCTA whenever it
Of course, sir.
comes up with survey results.
Of course,
We're
sir.
very grateful for this.
Sir,
Thank you.
teka sir, let me start off with your figure 2. Doon sa inyong release, it showed the figures of VP Sara sa trust ratings from October 2022 to September 2024. From 86% in the last 2 years down to 59%. That's a drop of 27 percentage points in 2 years. I'm wondering na kasi typically, di ba, bumababa naman talaga yung yung mga ratings sa mga politiko over the years eh. Pero
Yeah.
is this typical of that drop or is this unusual? I mean, is this something that you expect in terms of the volume or the amount of drop or it's a one-off?
Well, in the case of VP Sara Duterte, first of all, we have to emphasize that the survey findings basically say one thing, no? Majority of Filipinos continue to trust and approve of the performance of both the president and the vice president. We have to get that first as baseline, no?
Yeah.
So majority of Filipinos, we wanted to emphasize a significant drop in trust for VP Duterte at 6 percentage points. And a performance drop of 8 percentage points. Now, in the past, there were times that her numbers would drop 1 quarter and go up, similar to that of the president, which, by the way, has a significant drop also when you look at the long view, no?
The long view.
But now we have 2 quarters where we have a significant drop in the trust and approval ratings of the vice president. So this is as we look at the numbers, we always emphasize the trend. The trend is downward. So
Pero,
this is why
yun nga, Prof,
we want to emphasize that point.
Anong definition nyo ng trend? When is it a
Sa amin,
trend?
2 quarters sa amin.
2 quarters is a trend.
2 quarters.
Pero
But,
walang
if you look
percentage
at,
points.
Sec Ronald, this is almost 3 quarters eh.
Yeah.
When
So,
it comes to the performance.
Pero ang ibig sabihin ba ng trend ay 6% every quarter, 5%, 2%? So what entails a trend?
It should be significant to the margin of error. So in this case, for the last 2 quarters, it's been more than 3 percentage point drops. So 5 percentage point is considered significant sa OCTA given the 1,200 sample size. So this is how this is where we're coming from when we say there is a significant drop.
Professor, of course, clarify lang natin yung period na kinuha niya yung survey.
Yes.
Hindi pa nangyayari dyan yung two events na highlighted yung 2 Dutertes, VP Sara and her father, Rodrigo Duterte. Yung isa, yung nauna, yung Drag Me to Hell press conference ni VP Sara. And the second, of course, yung 9 hours ni President Duterte doon sa Senado. No? Ilinawin lang natin. Kinuha, hindi pa kasama
Hindi
yun.
captured dito.
Wala pa yung dito. Wala pa yung Halloween
sa
press
first
con.
quarter survey.
Oo.
Now being conducted.
So I'm asking you, with your hat as a political science professor, anong tingin nyo kaya? Yan lang, guess lang. Kung ano magiging impact nun sa mga ratings ni VP Sara.
Will
Well,
it
we
add
don't
to
know,
the trend?
honestly. That's hard to say, given that we have 2 quarters now of declines. No, and by the way, we've also given the office of the vice president a copy of this. We give everyone a copy of this. This is a public service initiative of OCTA. My sense is, it's very hard to say. VP Sara's press conferences were quite controversial, and the general perception was negative. But she has a base of support that really like that those.
Yes.
And then the president's performance, former president's performance in the Senate, I think from a PR standpoint was something positive for them. They used it as a platform. Of course, the things he said were quite controversial. They'll have definitely, while I'm not a lawyer, they have legal implications, especially the ongoing case in the ICC. But politically speaking, they've managed to use these platforms to, strengthen, excite their base, whatever is left of that base. And we don't know what the impact is. I'm sorry, I won't give you a definite answer there because I'm representing an organization here. But we don't know the impact yet, and maybe that might be positive for the fourth quarter. We really don't know. But right now, what we do know based on the data is the numbers are declining, and for the first time in almost since the inception of the administration, the president has higher trust and approval ratings than the vice president. As far as all is concerned. So this is the first time actually in 2 quarters of where the president has a higher trust and performance rating.
Nung pinadala nyo, Prof, sa Office of the Vice President, yung survey results nyo, binigyan ba nila kayo ng thank you card?
Though we sent it via Viber and they acknowledged receiving it. I sent it to her very good chief of staff.
Napaka-old time mo naman.
Dapat nagpasalamat pa lang kung hindi man Hallmark greeting card.
Hindi naman yung tinelegrama siguro yung...
Ayun naman, Pero agnostic ang OCTA dyan sa ganyan. Pero the thing is, we have to emphasize, the 2 leaders, the president and the vice president, still have majority trust.
Yes, Prof.
And that's what we want to emphasize.
Yes, Prof.
In this quarter, the vice president went down. And all of them had some decline.
Yeah.
But one was that the president, it's statistically unchanged because it's less than the margin of error. But in OCTA kasi we to emphasize that, we want to show that there was some movement, some erosion. So that's why we reported it that way. But technically speaking, statistically speaking, the president's numbers were virtually unchanged from the national level. I'm sorry, at the national level, unchanged from the second quarter.
Pero malaki yung
Professor, pero yung pagbaba na yan, consistent din yan, yung kay President Marcos, di ba? Although in smaller increments.
Yeah.
Pero
mostly in Mindanao, mostly in Mindanao. Yeah.
Yes.
Mostly in Mindanao,
the past, medyo nagte-tend to pumupunta sa kanya, di ba? Yung supportang nawawala kay VP. Some of it goes to him. Pero ngayon ba, meron din kayo nakikitang ganon? Parang wala.
Here's what we're seeing, Ami. So when we look at the vice president's number, whether it's trust or performance rating, it went down really in the capital region by double digits in performance. The balance goes on. The Visayas. So across the country, there was some erosion as far as her trust and performance was concerned in these 3 areas. And then loss in class A, B, C, and D.
Pero Prof, sabi nyo, nagsimula yung numbers ni Vice President Sara sa 89-90%. Tapos ngayon nasa mid-lower 50s. So medyo significant yon. Yung ganong klase.
Anything over 5%, significant talaga yan. Pero that's the long view. That's the long view.
Yes. But that's not too long, di ba? That's 2-3 quarters. So medyo mabilis yun, no? Yung 2 quarters na yon. Para sa ganong kalaki na pagbaba from 89 to 50s, no?
Yeah.
I guess over 2 years
what their team has to look at is really the quarter to quarter also because it's now a 2-quarter decline. She's never had this kind of trend before. Sometimes she goes up, sometimes she goes down as far as trust and performance is concerned. But here we have 2 quarters, second and third quarter, where the second and the third quarter, where she had a decline in both trust and performance that is significant, more than the margin of error.
Tsaka ang significant dito, Prof, ay una yung sa Class D. Class D. Class D is 80% of voters, di ba?
Yeah.
Tapos ikalawa yung NCR, National Capital Region. Although significant din yung Visayas, pero NCR kasi tsaka yung Class D medyo malaki yung sa survey nyo, at least yung 2 quarters.
Yes. And the distrust rating also for her went up from 11 to 14, which is also something that they should look into. But performance ratings the erosion is quite significant. For example, in overall, nationally, it's 8 percentage points. In NCR, it's minus 12 percentage points. In Balanced Luzon, it's minus 11 percentage points. In Visayas, it's minus, I think this is something like 6 percentage points. And in Class D, 9 percentage points. So these are the declines, no? As far as the surveys is concerned. And so I think this is something that is notable. That's why we wanted to emphasize it in our press release. But, you know, all of the top officials had some sort of decline during the quarter. And, but, you know, because it's within the margin error, you know, it's nominal. But in the case of the vice president, these were the areas where she had notable declines.
Yeah. Prof,
And-
Professor,
Prof, but that brings me back to my
kahit,
question
kahit
earlier.
hindi,
That's why I was asking you earlier, di ba, it's always expected na bababa yung mga ratings ng mga opisyal habang sila nakaupo as the years go down. But in this particular case of VP Sara, would this be an unusual decline if there is such a thing?
Tsaka di ba, Prof,
I
usually
don't think
kasi yung
it's
vice
unusual.
president
You're
mas
correct.
mataas.
When you look at the president's numbers, it's also in the report. It also declined, no? From a high of, I think, for trust, for example, a high of 86, no? It's gone down, di ba? Pero the thing is, in her case, we wanted to emphasize that it is 2 quarters already of successive declines. So that's why we want to emphasize it in the report also. So, and it's unusual for her because she's always been the top government official in terms of trust and performance. So, you know, this is, the last 2 quarters is a contrast to almost 2 years of you know, being on top. Yeah.
Pero di ba, Prof,
So,
significant...
Professor, are you conducting a kahit informal study lang, o ikaw na lang, in your opinion, ano kaya yung factor that's pulling her down? Kasi dati, sinabi niyo mukhang yung mga pagbabanat ng tatay niya sa administration could be a factor. In this case, medyo tumahimik na, kumakambyo na si President Duterte. Yung period na covered na yan, ha? Pero in this case, ano kaya? To what do you attribute the slide, the significant slide sa kanya, kay VP Sara?
For the first time, no, as a group, we became a little more eloquent, a little more dramatic. No? We added some sort of editorial report where we said that, you know, these declines may be, you know, speculate, maybe because of the impact of the political dynamics that we have now, where there's, you know, a open fight between the president and the vice president, their families and their political alliances. We can see that also consistent with our other surveys, where there was some erosion in the numbers of those who prefer to align themselves with the Duterte family over the last 2 quarters. No? A 5% percentage point decrease at the national level. So these are, you know, fairly consistent findings that show some sort of erosion as far as the both VP Sara from the trust and performance standpoint, and also the Duterte family from the, you know, at the national level, from a brand standpoint. So the reports have already been out in the media. So
What about yung kay President Marcos? Although it's statistically insignificant yung 2 points, medyo consistent din yung pagbaba niya. Eto, within this period, ano yung nakikita nyo? Inflation pa rin ba? Ano
I
yun?
think so. Yeah, we're releasing our report on the urgent personal and national concerns of everyday Filipinos, and I think it's really number one, managing the price of goods and services. Managing inflation in particular is number one. Number two is, of course, stagnant wages. No, third is, of course, affordable food. So those 3 areas are still where the president and the administration need to do a lot more work. Although when you look at our last survey report on poverty, nearly more than 1 million people were taken out of self-rated poverty, or did not rate themselves as poor in the 3rd quarter, as well as hunger. No, these are combined 5 percentage point drop in self-rated poverty and 5 percentage point drop in hunger. So things are happening as far as the administration is concerned, and this is maybe why his numbers have stayed stable, whether it's trust or performance, in the last 2 quarters. So maybe that's an inkling. That's where, if the government performs, continues to create both opportunities for economic growth, no, and social development, uh, their trust and approval ratings seem to hold. It takes around, in our view, around 2 to 3 quarters for government interventions to be felt, which is possibly why we have the trust ratings and performance ratings that we have for the president. I think there was a slight erosion in Mindanao, okay, as far as the presence numbers are concerned, and this is the reason why, and in and this is the reason why we observed a nominal decrease in his trust and approval ratings at the national level. But it's largely in Mindanao and largely with me. For our congressional leaders, I think they still it's basically unchanged for the Speaker of the House, Martin Romualdez, no, still very good trust and approval ratings, no. And for the first time, we're rating, no, or studying the performance rating of Cheese Escudero, Senate President. For this quarter, the first quarter that we studied his performance ratings, mataas naman po. Yeah. So these I think are the key findings, no, of the survey.
Sir, let me ask you to put on again your hat as a political scientist, not as OCTA, but as a political scientist. Kasi kanina we were talking in the previous interview, we were talking about how Sara's numbers were going down because of the attacks by her father against the president. But hindi captured in this survey, di ba? Pero noong October 18, yung kanyang Drag Me to Hell press conference, it was Sara herself who was attacking the president. As a political scientist, do you expect further erosion because of that? Or
I think so. I think for many Filipinos, it's also seen in some of our other probes and our FGDs that they're not really happy about the politics of division. This has, I think, turned a lot of individuals off. No? Especially in our FGDs, we look, no, at we listen to young voters, and what the young voters are saying, no, in our FGDs is that they're looking for leaders who will bridge, no, who will focus on issues and focus on solving their own problems, which are very clear for them. The common statement seen in our FGDs is sawang-sawa na sila sa bangayan politika, no, our leaders, elites fighting, no. But this is in our FGDs, no. And you hear names like Lisa Ontiveros, Amy Marcos. You also hear the name of our former Vice President Lenny Robredo as examples, no. And this is a growing sentiment when we run FGDs that this politics of division, this politics of where people insult each other openly, no. Has had a negative effect as far as our citizens are concerned. So this is something that I think has to be studied, no, and will probably come out in the surveys as we run them in the future.
Prof, gusto ko lang ulitin yung tanong ko last time na guest ka namin dito. Kailan kayo maglalabas ng survey para dun sa presidential preference na several months ago, sabi niyo maglalabas kayo soon.
Yeah, no, we have it. Actually, we continue to run these probes, but there's a dissonance within OCTA as to whether we should publish it, thinking that it's 3 years from now, and it is quite controversial and premature. So, but I'll bring this up again with the board and see if there's some changes as far as that policy is concerned. We haven't had a commission on that lately. This is really just internally among OCTA, where we run scenarios where we have different candidates and different tandems. One thing's for sure, a big chunk of Filipino voters are undecided and are looking for a new set of leaders. And for this quarter, just to give you some sense, some of the progressive politicians we know all went up as far as the surveys are concerned. But there's a standard, there's a match up that's above everyone else, no, and that match up still continues to be a preferred match up, no, as far as our surveys are concerned. This is the matchup between Sara Duterte and Senator Raffy Tulfo. But again, nothing has changed as far as that's concerned. So, yun lang.
Professor, sabi ng Chief Justice, wag na daw siyang isama dyan sa mga rate survey niyo.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Thank
Yeah, but
Oo, bakit daw siya
Chief Justice,
sinasama?
the Chief Justice saw a bump, no, up. So tumaas yung trust ratings po niya, which is a good thing for this
Di
particular.
naman daw siya nag-ano ng popularity. Oh.
Yeah, I know. But the surveys are, they are used for, performance, to study performance, to see, to monitor, legitimacy in a sense, no. And so, historically, lagi naman kasama ang Chief Justice, but nobody expects naman that he'll be more popular than the President. Especially now, the last few Chief Justices have been very quiet as far as the media is concerned, but very big on work. So I think that also the Supreme Court and the Judiciary look at trust and performance seriously, because people are also looking and trying to find out what the Judiciary is trying to do, what it has done in terms of reforms. I think it's important. But again, he's right. It's not about being popular, it's about doing the right thing. And I think the judiciary is trying its best to reform the institution. So, yeah, hopefully he will register even higher trust and performance ratings in the next quarter.
Okay.
Okay.
Maraming salamat, OCTA Research President Ranjit Rye. Sir, thank you for joining us. And pag meron kang ulit,
Chismis.
Salamat, Prof.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again for always inviting us,
Of course,
and
sir.
for sharing our data to the public. Thank you po.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor.